By and by they were overtaken by a gentleman, mounted on a very fine mare. He wore a long green riding coat, and his whole outfit gave the impression of a country gentleman of taste and importance, so he was well dressed. His courteous greeting of Don Quixote was courteously returned, but the customs of politeness could not prevent the gentleman from staring in amazement at the strange figure of the knight. Don Quixote saw this and said, "I see your worship is surprised at my appearance, which is unusual in these days. I am a knight of the old school of chivalry, which I am trying to revive or bring back. For that purpose I have left my home, mortgaged my estates, abandoned all ease and pleasure, and taken up a life of adventure, enduring all sorts of good and ill fortune in the noble work of helping widows, orphans, damsels in distress, and generally combating injustice. In this task I have earned some reputation, for I learned from a friend of mine, a graduate of Salamanca, that a book has been written about me, and 30,000 copies have been printed." Pause. That's actually true. You remember, this is when Miguel de Cervantes, the man who wrote this book, he wrote it in two parts. So at the time that he wrote this book, his first edition, the first volume of the book, had been sold all over Europe in 30,000 copies. If heaven spares me, many more may be printed in the future. I am Sir Don Quixote de la Mancha, otherwise known as the Knight of the Sorrowful Countenance. Okay, let's talk about this. Countenance means kind of how your face looks. Why does Don Quixote refer to himself as the sorrowful countenance, or a man of great sorrow? What is he so sad about? Micah? Yes, Dulcinea. Not being able to be with his lady love. And now that you know who I am, you can stop wondering at my appearance. The gentleman in green remained silent for some time, and finally said, "You are right, sir, in thinking that I was surprised at your appearance. But I confess that what you say about yourself causes me still greater surprise. I had no idea there were now, or ever were, cavaliers riding about, righting wrongs and enforcing justice, or that histories of their deeds are published. I am astonished that it is so. I can only thank heaven that a genuine history such as yours will expose the lying, mischievous fables that have been printed about imaginary knight-errants and their ridiculous, impossible exploits." "There is a lot to be said on the matter of the truth of those histories," answered Don Quixote. "You know, is it possible that any living soul does not know they are false?" interrupted the gentleman. "Sir," replied Don Quixote, "if we travel together, I hope in time to convince you that you yourself are deluded." So this guy in green, he's like, "Is it possible that people think knights were actually real? There's no way. There's no way. That's so ridiculous." And Don Quixote says, "Oh, they're real. I'm going to show you." The gentleman, looking hard at Don Quixote, began to suspect that he was not in his right mind. Before they went further, Don Quixote asked to know more about the person he was talking to. The traveler, or the guy in green, the knight in green, said he was a gentleman of good family and a fair-sized estate, that he had a love of sports and a taste for literature and conversation, and ended up by inviting Don Quixote to dine with him at his house, which was in the village they were headed towards. Don Quixote agreed, and they rode on, talking about moral, social, and literary topics. The gentleman became more and more astonished that a man of Don Quixote's intelligence should believe in knight-errantry and magic and enchanters. He's like, this guy's actually really smart. I cannot believe he would believe in something as stupid as knights and magic and sorcerers. What a weirdo. Suddenly the knight cried out, "Sancho! Give me my helmet! If I am not mistaken, something is about to happen that will require me to interfere with my weapons." Kind of like, have you ever seen Spider-Man? where he says, like, my spidey senses are tingling. He's like, my night senses are tingling. Something bad is about to happen. The gentleman looked around, but could see nothing but a cart carrying some large crates, which was drawn by a team of mules and flying 3 royal flags to show that it was the property of the king. Guys, pick your head up off your desk. No one can fall asleep. Don Quixote planted himself in the middle of the road and yelled to the 2 men on the cart, "Where are you going, friends? And what have you on the wagon?" "The wagon and mules are mine," said one of the men, "but the crates contain 2 fierce lions, which are presents to the king from the governor of Iran in Africa. They are the biggest lions that ever came to Spain." "Ha! I am not scared of lions," declared Don Quixote, "however fierce or big they are. Open the cages and let them come out, and I will show the enchanters who have sent them what Don Quixote de la Mancha can do." The men on the cart were dumbfounded at this command. What does dumbfounded mean? Micah? Yeah, like ridiculously confused. Like, I don't know what to do. Finish his chapter, Connor. Sancho wrung his hands in despair like this. Oh boy, this is not good. This is not good. This is not good. The gentleman in green urged Don Quixote not to continue with his purpose. "These lions are not sent to harm you or even test your courage," he said. "They are presents to his majesty, and you have no right to interfere with them." "Let everybody mind his own business," said Don Quixote. "Mine is to deal with these lions. Now, sir, open the cages at once, or I will fasten you to your wagon with my lance." The terrified man, seeing that Don Quixote was determined and probably crazy, said, "Oh, for God's sake, sir, let me unhitch my mules, for if they are killed by the lions, I am ruined." This Don Quixote allowed, the wagon driver calling on all there to bear witness that he was being forced against his will, and over his protests, he unyoked his animals and led them out of harm's way. The gentleman in green, after trying again, uselessly, to reason with Don Quixote, also went off some distance, taking the tearful, trembling Sancho with him. The man left on the wagon also made an appeal, but got only a stern command to open a lion's cage as an answer. So everyone's trying to convince him, dude, this is not a good idea. These lions, you do not have to fight them. There's nothing going on here. Just let them go on their way. They're locked up in crates. There's no danger. Just don't open the crates. But Don Quixote is stubborn, and he is determined. While he set about this, Don Quixote dismounted and turned Rocinante loose, having resolved to fight the lions on foot with his sword. Then he commended himself to God and to Dulcinea, and stood ready in front of the lion's door. The keeper, seeing no other way, opened the door of the cage, and revealed a magnificent lion stretched out on the floor of the crate. Dazed by this sudden flood of light into his den, the lion turned around, reached out an enormous paw, and stretched his body its full length. Next, he opened his mouth and yawned leisurely. After this, he got up and quietly surveyed the landscape. He extended his scarlet tongue, which was 2 hands long, and began to lick the dust from his eyes and face. Then he stuck his head out the doorway and gazed calmly around, his great eyes searching, terrifying to even the bravest heart. Don Quixote, undaunted, waited with impatience for the lion to leap out so that he might engage him and slice him to pieces. But that moment never came. The majestic lion, seeming satisfied with what he had seen, turned back into his den without even noticing the night, slowly laid down again, and went back to sleep. Okay, so you have to imagine the scene, right? Don Quixote is set. You can kind of imagine him with his sword ready for the lions to come out. And the guy over here, he's unlocking the cage like this is a bad idea. Everybody run. It's a bad idea. He unlocks the cage. He lets it down. He runs away real quick. And the lion gets up. He catches one of these. He walks up. And he looks. And he looks. He looks again. And he goes back to sleep. He's completely uninterested in Don Quixote. Okay? Now, what do you think Don Quixote, how do you think he feels? Riley? He wants a fight, right? He is just bound and determined to fight these lions. So look what he says next. Don Quixote ordered the keeper to excite the lion by poking him with sticks and beating him. But the keeper refused, saying that the knight had already proven his courage, and that he should not force combat on an unwilling opponent. He's like, no. I'm not going to poke this lion with sticks. You want to poke the lion, you should do it yourself, but I am not going to do that. Plus, you've already defeated him. You've shown your courage. You're blah, blah, whatever. Just don't poke the lion. The knight admitted the truth of this statement, of this argument. Shut the door, then, and I will signal my friends to return, he said, tying a white cloth to the tip of his lance, and then waving it for Sancho and the gentleman in green to see. What? I'll be hanged if my master has not defeated the king of the beasts, exclaimed Sancho, and he ran forward to learn what had happened. So Don Quixote waves a white flag, basically saying the battle is over. But since he is still alive, and he's the one waving the flag, typically in battle that means that he has won. So Sancho, being way far away, has not seen this whole thing take place, and he's like, well, dadgum, my master beat those lions, that's crazy! He's like, wow, he's so good! The keeper gave a full and flattering account of what had taken place. Don Quixote gave him a couple of gold coins for him and his companion as a reward for their trouble. And if the matter should come to the ears of the king, he added, and he should wish to know who performed this feat, tell him it was Don Quixote de la Mancha, now known as the Knight of the Lions, for I am dropping the name Sorrowful Countenance and adopting the other as the customs of chivalry allow. He's now going to change his name because he has defeated the lions. Yes?
But what if the lion tore him to pieces and then grabbed his flesh and put his mouth on it?
Well, that would be bad.
Then the lion would come to fury.
The gentleman in green, who was named Don Diego de Miranda, had remained silent all this time. Don Quixote turned to him now and said, no doubt, sir, you consider me extravagant and mad, but I am not as crazy as my actions seem to indicate. Remember, there are various sorts of knights. Knights of the tournament, knights of the court, knights of the battlefield, but superior to all of these is the knight-errant, who endures hardships to help the poor and the friendless, fearless of wild beasts, ghosts, dragons, and magicians. I am a knight of that order, and must not shrink from any danger which comes to me in the course of my duty. That was obviously the case with the lions, though, of course, that action showed an excess of audacity. But it is better to err on the side of rashness than to sink into cowardice. He says, listen, it's better for me to maybe be a little rash and make dumb decisions and fight something a little too strong for me than it is to be a coward. He says, I would rather make dumb decisions and fight something hard than be a coward and fight something easy. Okay? Oh, there is a good deal in what you say, answered Don Diego, but we have lost time. Let us quicken our pace, and you can rest soon at my house. Don Quixote courteously agreed, and they reached Don Diego's mansion at about 2 in the afternoon. Don Diego's wife and son came out to meet the party and seemed astonished to see the knight-errant. Madame, said Don Diego, this is Don Quixote de la Mancha, the wisest and most valiant knight-errant in the world. The lady, whose name was Dona Cristiana, that's his wife, welcomed him kindly, and Don Quixote in return kissed her hand gracefully. A similar ceremony was made with his son, Lorenzo, and then the knight and his squire retired to their rooms to prepare for a banquet. Yes. From history. Same name, but different guy. While the knight was washing up, Don Diego, this is the man in green, explained to his wife and son how he had met Don Quixote and described his extraordinary conduct. I can only say, he concluded, that while he can talk like a man of sense, he is capable of acting like a madman of the most outrageous kind. Okay, so Don Diego, this man in green that it keeps referring to, he brings Don Quixote back home to his family to stay the night and have dinner and things like that. And as Don Quixote goes kind of upstairs to take a shower and change and stuff, and Sancho as well, he's talking to his family. He's like, y'all, some things he says make a little sense, but this guy's flat out crazy. Just wait. For 4 days, Don Quixote and Sancho enjoyed themselves at the hospitable mansion of Don Diego. Then the knight asked for permission to depart, for rest is allowable for knight-errants, but idleness and ease are not. Before going on to Saragossa to the fair, Don Quixote wished to explore the mysterious cave of Montesinos and discover the source of the lakes of Ruidera, both of these places being in the vicinity. After a ceremony of leave-taking, it's like a big goodbye party, he and Sancho, their packs now resupplied, went on their way, well satisfied with their visit. Their next adventures were not very exciting. They visited the cave of Montesinos, where Don Quixote had himself lowered to a great depth. There he fell asleep on the ledge of a rock and dreamed of an enchanted world where he recognized Dulcinea exactly as she had appeared when Sancho pretended he saw her near Toboso. When he was finally raised up again to the surface, he insisted it was all real and had never been just a dream at all. Okay, so this cave of Montesinos, remember the picture of the abyss that we had on the board? That big, deep, dark hole? Almost like a bottomless pit? The cave of Montesinos is kind of like that. So when they went to explore the cave, he had himself lowered down into the cave, okay? And there was like a little rock ledge on there, okay? So he stayed on that ledge and fell asleep. He dreamed while on that ledge about Dulcinea, and when he woke up, he kind of claimed it was like a vision, that it had all been real, okay? And that it was never actually a dream, but he actually did see Dulcinea del Toboso. All he did was sleep on the ledge of a rock. So I don't know why he thought that. Hold on, Aiden. And once, at an inn, they were being entertained by a puppet show, when Don Quixote entirely lost his reason and slashed to bits some cardboard figures of Moors, who, as the story went, were carrying off a lady despite her resistance. For this, he had to pay the puppet master, who was none other than Gines de Pasamonte himself, in disguise, quite handsomely. Okay, so let me explain what had happened. So he and Sancho are continuing on their little errands, they're continuing traveling around. They come to this inn, and at the inn, they were there watching a puppet show. Okay, and in the puppet show, the little puppets, okay, like little fake things, moving around, one of the puppets is carrying off this damsel in distress. And Don Quixote, watching it, gets so wrapped up in the play, he stands up, he gets so mad, takes out his sword, and he cuts the puppet up. Because the puppet is stealing away this damsel in distress. Turns out, the puppet master, the guy who was controlling the whole show, was actually Gines de Pasamonte, in disguise, trying to earn some money, because he was an outlaw now. Huh? He's the leader of the chain gang. The really, really bad guy. Okay. And he ends up having to pay the puppet master for his puppets that he slashed up so he can build new ones. As they made their way on to Saragossa, at last free from such embarrassments, they came to the banks of the river Ebro, where they found a small boat tied by a rope to a tree, but without oars or a rudder. Don Quixote looked up and down the river, but saw no one to whom the boat might belong. Micah?
Would you like using like any puppets or like?
It doesn't say.
Because I'm sure if you use the bean puppets, that's just coming up.
I think it's the ones that you like kind of control from the top,
Okay.
but I'm not sure. Sophie?
On page 132,
Mhm.
The picture where it says he finally raised up again to the surface. The two horses in the back, I think that's an actor, but one of the horses looks like it's dead. Like this.
That would be bad. Okay, so now Don Quixote and Sancho come across this boat, okay? And this boat it has no oars, there's nothing in it to help paddle the boat. Okay? It's just sitting there. And they have no idea who it belongs to. Sancho, this boat, without a doubt, has been sent here in order for me to be carried off to some distance, to aid some imprisoned or bewitched knight, or some other important person. This practice is clearly described in the books of chivalry, though sometimes the enchanters use a cloud or a dragon to transport the knight who will perform the rescue. Since this is the case, tie the beasts here on the shore, for we must trust heaven and use this enchanted boat. All the prayers of all the barefooted friars in the world cannot prevent me. Well, in that case, Sancho said, I see no point in trying to persuade you against it. My duty as a servant is merely to obey your orders. But for the sake of my conscience, I must say that I believe this boat has nothing to do with enchanters and probably belongs to a fisherman. Together they got in the boat, untied the rope, and drifted downstream. When they had gone a few yards, Don Quixote said that their rate of speed was near 1,000 miles an hour, and they might soon cross the equator. Guarantee you it was not anywhere close to 1,000 miles an hour. But Sancho did not agree, because he could still see Rocinante and Dapple tied to a tree, and hear them too, complaining in their own language against being left behind by their masters. So like neighing and making noises like, you left us here, kind of thing. Okay. Soon, the boat drifted within the sight of some flour mills built by the river. Raise your hand if you know what flour is, like that white powdery stuff you use to bake. Okay. Don Quixote turned to Sancho, saying, See! There is the fortress where the unfortunate knight is being held captive, or it may be a queen or princess, and to whose rescue I am being carried by this magical boat. The only thing I see are watermills where they grind wheat into flour, answered Sancho. I believe you think so, said Don Quixote. No doubt they appear to you to be watermills, but they are not really so. By now you should understand the powers enchanters have to alter things, not to actually change their substance, but to change their natural appearance into something else. You remember how they changed Dulcinea. Sancho made no reply, partly because he would have remained silent in any case to this reminder, but partly